stream now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the New American Perspective. I'm your host, Jania Butler, and this is my co-host over here,
A.B. Butler.
You want to shout out his name with the G-Check. So we've got so much to talk to you about today here on Millennium News 24. How has your week been? Where are you tapping in from? Put it in the comments and let us know where you're tapping in from. Let us know what you're thinking, what's going on, how you feeling about this week, because it's so important. So, cousin, how are you today? How are you on this great hot Wednesday, Power Wednesday? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, cuz one day at a time, thank God for us.
Yes. And we back. The Butler gang is back in the building.
Yes, we are.
So let's just get right into it. Let's
get into it.
First talk about Donald Trump sending in the National Guard to Los Angeles, for the protest, the immigration protest. So ICE has been going into schools, graduations, Home Depots, jobs, wherever, rounding up the illegal immigrants and arresting them. Okay. So let's first talk about, how do you feel about that?
Let me G-check this. Donald Trump, do you send ICE after your wife?
Oops, but she's not an illegal immigrant.
Okay.
So now what we're talking about is people who have come across the border illegally. Now there's a process in the United States to be here legally. Now the problem that I have, right, is because of us in the Black community, if we sell cigarettes, if we jump the turnstile, and these are basic little things, we are going to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So now people have literally run across the border, have eluded our process as far as what makes you an American citizen. We don't even know that you're here, right? They've come across the border. They start working. They're working under the table. They're not paying taxes. Now, some people may be paying taxes, but they're not paying taxes, a lot of people. And then they've come across the border. Now they're working in different places. And now they want us to have sympathy about that. Now, should we have sympathy about that?
Well, let me G-check this real quick. California is Mexico.
Oh.
Exactly.
Saying
it's Mexico.
Well, you say that there's a lot of Mexican people that live in California.
Exactly.
Okay. And so, are you saying that people in America that have come across the border illegally, that we should let them stay here, as long as they get here, they should stay? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying this, right? If they here, they here. Who's going to clean up the houses? Who's going to cut the grass? Who's going to do all that right now? They're not paying them a bunch of money, even though they work together and put their money together to build stuff where we don't know how to do that.
What are you talking about? So now, hold on. Let me G-check you back, okay? Because
Please.
I have a problem with people. There's one of the Congress people, saying, "Oh, well, we don't want these jobs, so let them have these jobs." Now, granted, President Trump just put in an order today where he said, "Listen, people, hotel workers and farmers who need these people that are working, because they're saying that if they deport all these people, that you're going to mess up a whole bunch of people's industries by deporting these workers. And they're saying, oh, no, no, we don't have anybody else that'll pick the strawberries, that'll, what was the job you just said?
If it's us, you got to pay us.
Yeah, but see, that's why that it's illegal in America. So if minimum wage is $10 to $15, most of the places across, I think minimum wage is still about average of $7 an hour across America, but minimum wage is $15 an hour in New York. Okay, so now you have.
So hold on, stop right there. It's $15, right?
Yes.
Okay, count $15 to everything they going up. Congestion prices, rent, groceries, all of that. It don't matter. It don't matter.
$30,000. It does not. You cannot survive on that. But these people are surviving on less, and they're illegal in this country. So what I'm saying to you, is it okay for somebody to come across the border and illegally get work under the table, don't pay any taxes? Is it okay for them to do that? And should we allow this to happen? Because that's what they're protesting over there in LA right now. They are protesting the fact that they want to stay in America, give them an easy path to citizenship. Sometimes a path to citizenship, now granted, sometimes a path to citizenship, it takes about 10 years. Okay. So that's a long time, and they need to cut that down, and they need to figure it out. But see, I have a problem with people saying, oh, we don't have people to work the jobs. The hell we don't.
Yes, we do.
I used to be a career development director for the Doe Fund in New York City, okay? And people that ex-offenders who needed jobs and this and that, they were looking for good jobs. Now, no, we're not going to work for $5 an hour. No, we're not going to do that. But we will work for the wage that is appropriate. And so now these business
now you're talking
business owners that are paying people low amounts of money to do the work, now they should be charged, okay? Because now you're hiring people under the table. Now they're coming into work, and guess Mexicans, let me give them a clap, because they work harder than us. They show us as Americans that we are lazy. They show us that, hey, listen, they're going to outwork us. They'll put up a house in 2 minutes, okay? But what Donald Trump is doing is saying, listen, everybody that's illegal in this country, y'all got to go so we can get our thing right. And then here we go getting in the way and saying, oh, no, they should stay. But we pay more taxes, right? So like the other day that we were talking about Medicaid. We were talking about how now they're ready to cut 15 million people off of Medicaid, and that's going to include us. But what they're really trying to do is they're trying to cut the illegal immigrants off of the Medicaid that we're paying for as citizens. So when we talk about our taxes, when you talk about the congestion price, when you talk about the food, and when you talk about all that, you have people that are weighing down our system, okay, that are saying that, okay, we just want to be here. We're coming here. We're having 3-4 babies. We're going to go ahead and let the medical system pay for that. We're going to go ahead and do all of that. And we're allowing it. And so now we're saying, okay, no, side with the people. Americans are sympathetic, so I understand. But we're saying side with the people, side with this issue. Where are you on this? So you think that they should just come into the country, extra 20 million people that we're paying for? We cannot go to Mexico and say, hey, I want to stay in Mexico. Let me have a couple babies. I'm going to go ahead and get some welfare. I'm going to get $500 a month in cash. I'm going to go ahead and get some medical insurance, sit back, have my kid, find a job, work off the books, don't pay no taxes, and get ahead.
No, that ain't gonna work.
But that's what's happening. And so now the Democrats in LA, Mayor Karen Bass is saying, listen, there was no violence. So now you did see some of the the mayhem that was going on out there, right,
Yes,
cousin?
I have. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so you did see some of that mayhem. Now, was it violent or non-violent? What would you call that?
Well, you know, the way you see on TV, it looked like it was violence.
It looked like it was violence. So this
But
is a
when you
G-check.
say, but the real thing is a G check is they say it was violence, but at the same time, all I seen was them tearing up cars.
Is that violent or non-violent?
Listen, I'm gonna say it's violence.
Okay, but so now Maxine Waters, Karen Baxter saying, oh no, these were peaceful, nonviolent protests. And now a lot of people are saying, okay, so you guys talked about January 6th. You guys talked about the insurrection January 6th and all the white people running down there to stand behind Trump and, you know, jumping through the Capitol building and shooting, killing people. Well, they weren't shooting people, but people got killed in the process of them running up. So now they're saying if you look at some of the videos, some of the protesters are banging down and beating up the ground, right? They're beating up the ground and taking the rocks from the curb. And so they're making little rocks and throwing them at the police cruisers and throwing them at ICE because they're saying, ICE, get out of here. Now, I can understand that. Now, these protests have exploded and they're all around America right now. And so they're G-checking America and they're saying, look, we don't have now. What's happening is you're going into a graduation where you know somebody's family is going to be at, where 4 or 5 family members are going to be at, and you're saying, hey, we're gonna need to arrest you at the graduation. You
That's
know, I think
disrespectful.
that's a little,
Huh? That's cold disrespectful.
That is cold disrespectful. And you know, what's wrong with the numbers? You said that you were going after the criminals. You said that you were going after these, you know, these different folks that should not be here, the people in the gangs. And now you're going straight after people, the hardworking people, their kids are in school, and now you're taking them out. But there's a fine line. Where do we draw the line? How do we make this right? So they're playing on our sympathy and they're saying, hey, look, we're gonna walk through swamps, we're gonna get over here, and we're gonna make our way in America. We're gonna force our way into America, and we're gonna force them to accept us. We're gonna force them to accept our legal immigration, and that's what they're doing essentially. And now they've got the American people, some American people behind them saying, listen, don't do that. But if you're illegal, like I said, if we sell cigarettes,
we going to jail.
We are going to jail. So if they come across the border illegally, should there be sympathy? If I don't have money to get on the train, and I jump the train,
they're going to put the handcuffs on you.
Yes, I'm going to jail. This is a G-check. So I'm not sure where we draw this line. I understand. But how do we get ahead in this country if we always allowing somebody else in front of us? And that's a G-check.
That's a G-check. Donald Trump, you need to get on the phone with us. And we need to really sit down with you and tell you how to run this America. Because right now, you say, make America great. It's a new American.
Ooh, and that's a G-check. And I'm with that because, again, we've got to really figure it out. Again, what happens to the people that have come here, right? And they're abusing us. When the Democrats are in, the border is wide open, they come running across the border. Now, Trump told us what we were going to do. And we talked about here on the New American that, you know, the only people that are going to be safe in this Trump administration are American citizens. And so what do? Right? Where do we go? How do we build this without being inhumane? You're not here legally.
Well, you know, we are American citizens. We are Americans. This is a G-check. We are American citizens. And we still get treated like we from another country.
Oh, the good one. Good one.
So that's the end of it. So that's a G-check. But real talk, how do we first Straighten that out.
Straighten out the straightening.
Yeah, that's what we need to be straightened out. It don't matter we march and stand up, yell, whatever. We need to correct the problem. The problem is we need to start helping one another.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
We
so
got
let's go to a break really quick. We're gonna go to a break and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk more about this and we're gonna talk about the other things that's going on. We got the BET Awards, we got Daddy and his crazy self, and we've got so much more to talk about here on Millennium News 24. This is the New American Perspective with the G Check, and we'll be right back.
Be right back. Guess who's back?
I'm showing my ice. If you know me, you know I love some ice. It tastes like chicken. But we are back here on the New American Perspective on Millennium News 24. I'm with my co-host, A.B. Butler, over here. And we are really intense today. Today is a serious day because there's a lot going on in America, and we are the New American Perspective. So please put it in the chat what you think about immigration and how we should move forward on immigration. You got people all over the streets, blowing up the streets, putting the fire. In LA, there's 4 million Mexican Americans, Mexicans in LA, and there's a 2,000 National Guard. So they look like they ready to fight, okay? They haven't gone through what we've been through, so they're not as tamed as the Black community is, where they know not to hit a police officer. But these ones, they throwing rocks, they going hard. And then they're saying some of those protesters are paid too. So we got to think about that too. They're saying that some of these protesters are paid, and everything. The game got out there with them and they said, listen, Mexican Americans have been with us alongside of us. And like you said, LA is Mexico. So they have it. Our cousin Ryan, his son is half Mexican, so part of the family. So how do we fight this? And they're giving us no choice but to do it the hard way, because President Trump said, go ahead and self-deport. They said, oh no, I ain't taking no $1,000 to go back to Mexico. They don't want to go back to Mexico. They want to be here in the United States, but it's too tough to get the laws passed. Okay. And then last week, President Trump, he put a ban on a bunch of countries coming to the United States. Haiti, Somalia, a whole bunch of places, a lot of places in Africa, Yemen, a bunch of places that he said that they don't know, who they're sending over here. The process of getting them over here is not right. And we're trying to make sure that the American walls are good. So we have a lot to talk about when it comes to immigration. Okay. But let's bust right into R. Kelly popped out, okay? R. Kelly has popped out and said that he has been petitioning Donald Trump in the last couple of days and asked for an emergency release based on the fact that federal agents are trying to kill him. He said, soliciting inmates to kill him. R. Kelly said, I need out.
That sound like a G Check, another Tory Lanez situation.
Another Tory Lanez situation. And so R. Kelly, who knows, has been a great R&B singer for us for years over, was convicted of 30 years in, I don't know if he was sex trafficking or rape or young adult, something to that degree. But he's got 30 years, okay? And so now he's saying that they're trying to kill the songbird in jail, and we're not sure how, what, why. We haven't heard the details yet, but if any time for a pardon is now. And I hope that Trump continues to open up the ears and of people that need pardons, because people need out of jail. Sometimes we get very insensitive to the jail process and the jail system, and people need pardons. Some people we know are in there are innocent, and I think that we need to look a little deeper. So shout out to President Trump for that. Shout out to Alice Johnson for the work that she's doing. We know that she pardoned Larry Hoover and NBA Youngboy, and also Harry O on this last go round, and Larry Hoover was, like I said, one of my recommendations for Trump in his first administration. And so I'm glad that happened. Now he's got to get a state pardon. So we're still working on all kinds of things. And I just think people just need to be, if we're saying that the immigrants that are coming over here deserve the opportunity, why are we not saying that these people in jail deserve to be let out?
How about the people who's not in jail that just did the right thing when they came home, and they need to clean they whole record? But it's like it's so hard for the brown. I'm gonna say brown. That's in us, them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so hard for us to keep winning. Every time you turn around, it's a G check on black people and brown people.
It is a G check, and it is sorrowful because we want to make it in this country as well. So we've got R. Kelly. Hopefully R. Kelly will come home. I'm sure that he wrote a bunch of good music.
I believe I can fly.
And before we get into the heavy stuff, we've got Angel Reese, the WNBA player, Angel Reese, former LSU player with Shaquille O'Neal's. Hold on, I got this really important call really quick. But we've got oh my God. So Angel Reese is talking about she wants her sneakers to be $1,000 per sneaker, right? And so she's with Reebok and Allen Iverson and Shaquille O'Neal. She said, girlfriend said, $1,000 a sneaker for my sneaker for the Angel Reese. And she said that she's got a bunch of people that will buy it for $1,000. What's the G check here, cousin?
The G check is, do those sneakers really drive or fly? You can lay down. That is like a note for a car, apartment, rent, groceries. Come on, you're gonna put them sneakers on, and like about 2 or 3 days, they all messed up. So I'm like, you got to, I respect who you are, but $1,000 for a pair of sneakers is not that serious. That's a G check.
That's a G check. Now, Angel is getting pretty big. She's been a big influencer. She's outside. She's at everything. She's making sure that her little WNBA salary, because she only gets paid $75,000 a year so far as her second year in the WNBA. She gets paid $75,000. So she's trying to make her money the way that she can, because when she was in college under the NIL, which is the name, image, and likeness, she was making about $3 million a year. And so now she's trying to use her influence to up it. But okay,
they should up it.
Now, but here's the thing. She's missing her layups, girlfriend. You got to make your layups, girlfriend. Okay. Now, I don't know if all the fanfare, sometimes when you get focused on, Hollywood and you're not focused on the game, your game goes down. And so she's missing a lot of layups right now. And so Clarissa Shields, the boxing champion, the world heavyweight boxing champion, who is now with Papoose. Okay. She was at the BET Awards this weekend, and she said that Clarissa Shields said, I thought this was about accolades. Angel Reese won Sportsman of the Year. Now, that's because she's in everybody's face, right? Mm-hmm. Clarissa is like, listen, I thought this was about accolades. I just won. I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion right now. How could she beat me when she doesn't? She hasn't even done anything. She's not even winning her games. And so Clarissa gave her a strong G check, right? She gave her a strong G check. She said, listen, I got all dialed up. I spent all this money. I came out here to the BET Awards, and what's up with that? And so she won alongside, Angel Reese won alongside of Jalen Hurts of the Eagles. How could I forget the Philadelphia Eagles? Fly, Eagles fly up in the sky. So she won, and I agree with her. I agree that BET at sometimes, goes over
That's BET for you.
Goes over the influence versus thing. Now, I did think that the BET Awards this year was pretty decent. We were going to go, and you had decided, because you don't need to be on a plane over 6 hours to
my brain.
Right, to not go, but it looked like it was really fun this year, and even there was a lot of good stuff. I think the only demon stuff was Lil Wayne was bugging out. The only red stuff that I saw this year was with Lil Wayne, but I thought Kevin Hart, he was the host. I think he did a great job.
Yeah, he did a good job. That's a G check.
He channeled Usher. He did a Kendrick Lamar freestyle. He G-checked Kurt Franklin on how he popping, out there, how he be popping, how he be de-popping. So I thought it was really great. We've seen Warren G family saluted by Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and Corrupt, and they did a whole set. And so I thought,
how about Mariah Carey? Shout out to Mariah.
And so let's talk about the icons and what they were saying, because I thought this was a really sentimental BET. So tell us what you thought about that.
Well, let me start off with this. You know what I mean? Dr. Dre, Warren G, and Snoop. Let me start off with this. In my eyes, even though that's Warren G brother, I think Dre should have gave Warren a big shout out and showed him more love. You know what I mean? Because even though Snoop was going to shout him out or whatever, but if it wasn't for Warren, Dre would have never met Snoop.
Right.
So I always think Big Bruh should always give his little brother shout outs. And I think they have a problem. Brothers have a problems with that. You know what I mean? I have problems with my brother with that.
They were brothers by marriage. So either one's mom or dad married each other, and that's how they were brothers. And so there's not no blood in that. And I'm sure that Snoop is more of a brother than Dre, even though that the family connection.
Yeah.
And then what about Jamie Foxx?
Oh man, shout out to Jamie Foxx, man. I'm proud of him, man. He been through so many things like myself. I had 2 brain tumors. You know what I mean? We still here. And the key thing is you got to always thank God for keeping us here. Me, Jamie, and a couple other people was here for a reason. And we can't say what the reason is, but I think the reason is because we always keep it so real.
Okay,
so real.
Okay, G-Check.
And that's a G-Check. And then hold up, we got Mariah Carey.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And shout out to Buster, but me personally, what really bothers me is like every time they get up there, they never shout out cousin Chris Lighty. And all because I understand he's not in front of you, he's not behind you, he's not beside you, but you always shout out the young lady. You know what I mean? And it's sad where this man changed all of your lives.
Right.
All of your lives.
For sure.
So it's a problem where y'all get up on these platforms and forget who changed your life. You get what come from? I understand the young lady is sitting there, whatever, but at the end of the day, y'all should always shout out Chris Lighty first.
Mm-hmm.
I know mama say ladies first,
Ooh, ladies first.
but who changed your family life? His name is Chris Lighty. That
That's
goes for Buster D Nice. People forget, out of sight, out of mind. And that's what Kirk Franklin was saying. You know what I mean? When something happen to you, fall down for a moment, everybody's your best friend around you. Oh, and then next thing you know, you fall. As soon as you get back up, they come right back like nothing never happened.
Right.
So I had to, ain't nothing personal. There's no beef. It's none of that. I just had to G-check this, where y'all keep forgetting about Chris Lighty. It don't matter, he's not here. I'm here.
And that's a pure G check. So we're going to go to a commercial really quick. And when we come back, we're going to have more with the super G checker right here, A.B. Butler and myself, Jania Butler. And we're here with the New American Perspective on Millennium News 24. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Hello viewers, you are watching Millennium News 24. America and global villages seen America independence built by immigrants, manufacturers, roads, highways, educations, healthcare, IT, scientists, space, business development to all thousands of multimedia and all major social media platforms and news network in America. Millennium News 24, one of truthfully news networks in America and global news organizations. Please watch, follow and subscribe. We are in iOS and Android devices, Roku, Amazon, Apple devices, all smart TV, globally Horizon satellite, social media Millennium News 24, Millennium TV 24. Website www.millenniumnews24.com and www.millenniumtv24.com. Thank you.
And we
are back
here on the New American Perspective with your G check with my guy A.B. Butler over here, Cuzzo to the thousandth power.
I want to G check you. That ice must be good to you.
Yes. Did you see me coming back with it? I was like, I'll try to get it in.
Yeah, that's a G check.
That was a long commercial too, so I had a good time. One more swallow.
Like one more crunch in it.
You can just leave a swallow.
Yeah.
So let's get back into it, right? So we're talking about Chris Lighty. We're talking about the BET Awards. We're talking about that they did a decent job this year. They had now the folks. They spent some money because there were a lot of people there. They spent some money this year, and they said, let's bring it back because last year, was it last year with the 50th anniversary of hip hop?
Yeah.
So I think that they saw that there was, worth in it, and they're able to say to a sponsor, when you show some worth, shout out to hip hop. When you show some worth, it comes back around, and they say, well, okay, we want to spend some money. We want to get some real people in this building. Shout out to Rakim because he always looked good.
Shout out to Rock.
2015, we had Rakim on our 5-year anniversary. He was one of my top 5. We had him on the top 5. The 5-year anniversary of the Hip Hop Union, and he came out, and everybody came out. And I think that this was the party, not to pat myself on the back, but this was the party that that put hip hop back on the map. And Rakim definitely shot back up to the roof to them. So shout out to Rakim.
Rakim, let me G check something too.
Sure.
Let me G check this, right? Shout out to Kevin Hart. For telling the young ladies, put some clothes on. We getting tired seeing the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean? It's like, put some clothes on. Save it for the imaginations. No more imaginations. You know what I mean? And he definitely dropped that. Shout out. That's a big super G check to Kevin Hart
Shout
for
out Kevin
telling the
Hart.
black people to get dressed up.
I loved it. I thought he is hilarious. You know, he's got the tall wife. And everybody was out there looking really good. Even my mom said, "Oh, look at everybody, look good." So shout out
Thank you. Thank you.
dressing
Thank
up
you.
and everything like that. So, but I just want to say again, meanwhile, the BET Awards were going on. People were tearing up the city, and we're home watching the BET Awards. So I thought that was crazy too, because they made sure that we weren't out there too, because we was home watching the BET Awards, and we wasn't gonna be out in the streets doing nothing. But they did a lot out there. And so I want to also say, don't forget that the Olympics is 2028 in LA. And I think that's why we're seeing so much drastic things going on, because there's a lot of money coming to LA. Now, again, I think Trump sent in the National Guard, said, they're not about to burn up LA again. We are not about to go through this again. I'm not listening to you now. Governor Gavin Newsom is actually suing the president for sending in the National Guard. So he's suing them to take out the National Guard. He's saying, we don't need the National Guard. Now, Gavin Newsom is getting ready to run for president. And so we've got to look at that too, is that, you know, you got these people, you know, again, playing musical chairs, and every move is for another move. Okay. But 2028 is the Olympics, and we see LA going up, burn Hollywood, burn LA going up in fire yet again for something else. And I think that's kind of crazy. Now let me before we get off the BET Awards, let me just G check a couple things that I thought was very interesting. So T.I. introduced Kurt Franklin and said that he'd been through a lot, and he'd been a trapper, a rapper, and a semi-retired rapper. And before, in his past, he could not have introduced Kurt Franklin, but he was the introduction of Kurt Franklin. So I say that is an excellent G check, because now, you know, we know T.I. has changed his life, and shout out to T.I. and Tiny and Eris. She was singing in the Cadillac. Eris was singing hard and all that. So she coming up. Then Kurt Franklin, he bought it around, G check, because Kurt Franklin is what got me to God. If you know me, you know that I'm a very heavily spiritual person, love the Lord, follow the Lord. Since 1999, I picked up my knapsack and I walked, and God has never failed me. I have never lost a battle, and I've been on the battlefield since then, 1999. And Kurt Franklin, he brought it back. He's been doing gospel since 96. Okay. He started off his little medley, silver and gold, silver and gold. I'd rather have Jesus.
G-check. Don't quit your day job.
Right? No, I'm quitting my day job to sing for the Lord. Okay. And that's a G check, my buddy. Okay. So then he went through he sang that, and I thought this was a great G check for Kurt Franklin, because silver and gold, I'd rather have Jesus than silver and gold, where everybody in there is platinum out, gold out, you know. So think about that, folks, when you think about what is next. And then he screamed. So remember, Kurt, he did say some great things, because he said, listen, you know, I'm not perfect. You know, and I thought that was a great thing, because, you know, you think that this, you know, he's screaming and loving Jesus, that he can walk right. But he said, I'm not perfect. Remember, he screamed at his son. He, you know, we caught him out there screaming on his son, cursing out his son. And then he also has a porn addiction. So he's up there and he's saying that I am not the best, but you know what shows that God is real is that we still here. And that even though that I'm not the best person, God still shows through. So I thought that was great. And again, Snoop and Dre, and then don't forget Snoop brought up Charlie Wilson too. So I thought that was interesting. And he says, when it doesn't make sense, Kurt Franklin said, when it doesn't make sense, that's when you know it's God. So when, like you, cousin, when you have two tumors don't make sense and you sitting here on the screen.
Yeah, I don't drink or smoke. It don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but you being still whole, still looking great, you know that's God. We know that.
Okay. Thank God.
And then so what else? So now, so let's move on from that
BT.
and let's talk about your boy Puff Daddy. Okay, so Puff Daddy is still I think it's maybe day 20. He may be day 20 into his trial.
Mhm.
And they asked for they asked for a mistrial. They went for mistrial the other day, and they said the prosecutors knew information that the girls were lying about, and that was false. And they said, listen, we need a mistrial, we need to throw this out, let's get him out of here, let's get a new trial, let's get a new jury. I think they're getting one of the jurors out. They must be, sending notes or doing something heavy in there. But, I really wanted to talk about this in another light and to say that if you're really listening to what is happening with Puff Daddy, you have to know that he is mentally ill. The stuff that he's doing to these women. And here's a G-check, cousin. This is a question I had to ask you. Now, so all his girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got Jennifer Lopez, you got Young Miami, God rest the dead, Kim Porter, Cassie, all these
Misa,
the stuff that he was doing with these women. I believe that he was doing these things because he didn't want any other man touching his woman, right? So are these women dateable again once you hear what Puffy was doing to them and having 3-4 men having sex with his women in the night raw, and then he's having them pee in their mouths and all of that. Now, does that make a woman dateable going forward?
that's a G check. Dudes don't care. As long as she got a nice look and nice body, they don't care what goes on. Because there's a lot of them out here. It ain't just Puff Daddy girls. There's a lot of young ladies that go through that moment, and dudes, they might not know.
Now
They
you
might.
know. I'm saying now that you know that this is actually going on, 50 Cent's former baby's mother, she was on the stand. Now that you actually know, you telling me that these girls are still dateable. I think they're not.
Yeah. No. They still dateable because dudes don't care. They just like, okay, Puff had her, now I got her.
So you know that a man was peeing in this young lady's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Cassie's married with 3 kids. So, I mean, and they're talking about that they've had sores on their mouth, in their mouth, and all kinds of stuff. And so I believe that he was belittling them to a point that nobody else would want them, and giving them, just pulling them down. And I just, again, I'm beginning to feel bad for Puffy, because I'm like, okay, maybe he had erectile dysfunction and he needed other men to, be with his women. But you got to go to this extent, to have a good time with women. He's giving them pills, popping pills in their mouth. Here, take this ecstasy so you'll go ahead and go ahead along with my fantasy. And then here we have this mogul who most of us look to, and you've seen him come up from young. We have this mogul that people look to, and like, we want to talk to Puff. We want to meet him with Puff. Meanwhile, he's having sex for 4 days in Turks and Caicos. Okay, 24-hour sessions.
But this is a G check. You said Cassidy. Puff trainer. Know what was going on, right? As they say, he turned around and married her and put 3 babies in her. So You just answer your own question.
Well,
Dudes
he
don't
didn't
care.
know it like this. Now that we
But
have
I'm saying he did. He trust me. He know because if he if she ran to him,
Mhm.
she had to tell him what was going on. So he had to make that decision: is I'm gonna mess with this or I'm gonna leave this alone. So he messed with it. So he knew what was going on. He didn't care. He just saying, "Yo, okay, I got Cassidy, Puff baby mother. I mean Puff girl." You know, dudes don't care these days. People don't have a lot of people out here don't have respect for themselves. So you think they have respect for something else? So at the end of the day, you could look at the girls that R. Kelly pissed on. They probably dating dudes out there because they like, oh, R. Kelly pissed on her. Everybody want to see some. It's excitement when they meet chicks like this that been through that. To these dudes that never had. Listen, it's a G check. Dudes don't care. If they did, look at it. Half of these dudes out here is nasty anyway.
Well, I want to take a poll on that because I'm not quite sure, but I want to take a poll. So let us
Yeah,
know.
let's take a poll.
Are
Yeah,
these
that's
women still dateable
flooded.
people? What's going on? Are you still
Flooded.
dating them because they've been with Puff? They've been with all these people. Are you still liking them? Are you still treating them like they should be queens after they have gone through this? And so we're going to take our last break and we're going to come right back and we're going to talk about more with Puffy and more with everything that's going on out here because you see it's hard out here for a PIMP. And so we are going to come back with the New American Perspective and your G check and tap right in. So we will be back.
We'll be right back.
And we are back. Shout out to Phantom of the Beat for that wonderful beat and intro, outro, and every tro. And shout out to that, shout out to him, and shout out to everybody just going through something. Because the other thing that I want to talk about with this Puffy trial is victims, cousin. Because I feel like people look at women the wrong way, right? Women will do stuff for their man. There's a Jane Doe on the stand right now, and she's talking about how Puffy is paying $10,000 for her rent still to this day. He's paying for her lawyer fees and everything like that. And everybody is coming down on her, right? Everybody is coming down on this young lady and saying, oh, well, she's getting paid and she's a prostitute, and not thinking about how women really want to be with their women. Excuse the thing in the background, the phone in the background, if you can hear that. But they're not talking about that, right? They're not talking about the victims that these women are underneath these men. And I just think that we need to G-check this situation, because I think that people are victim shaming and looking at these young women and not saying that Puff was a real manipulator. Anybody that says, hey, look, I want you to have sex with 3 men tonight, and once you get tired and all of this stuff, here, let them bust and rub something on my nipples and all of this other stuff, and then they're saying these women wanted it. Are you crazy? Okay, are you crazy?
But let's G check this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This been happening before Puff. Let's check that, right?
Okay.
Let's check that, right? But you know what I mean? It goes on since I was a kid. So if we go into
What goes on?
you know what I mean, yo, homie, we got one. You know what I mean? Is this the way things is going on? We act like it's brand new. It's
No,
not.
he probably was groomed by somebody else. People say that he might have been groomed by Clive Davis and all these other people.
So why Clive Davis ain't on trial?
Because we seen him the other day and he's about to kick the bucket. He's about 90 something, isn't he? And he's about to fall apart, and he's got immunity when it comes to these type of things in the industry.
So let me ask you a question. This right? Why? And I'm not saying what he did, because me personally, I wasn't there, so I can't respond to what it is. I can respond to what I seen on that video, and it wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's so crazy. They could find all these videos, all this stuff that people come back. It happened to Bill Cosby. It happened to R. Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, when is we gonna come back? When they gonna come and do the right thing for our great grandmothers, our great great grandfathers, our family members that they hung, raped, and this and that? But if every time you turn around, they could always pull up everything we did. And at the end of the day, what everything Puff Party learned from the people that raped our great great grandmother. They learned from their history. So at the end of the day, let's be real with ourselves. This been going on before Puff, before R. Kelly, before Bill Cosby. You get where I'm coming from? So I understand what he did on that video was wrong. But at the end of the day, we got to remember, people will say anything for cash. That's a G check.
That's a G check, but they're not just saying anything for cash. They are proving their points of what is being said and what is being done. It's going across the board that these people that don't know each other, right, are having the same experience with Puffy. And like I said, I now look at Puffy, I think that he should plead insanity at this point. Shout out to them. That's a G check. I think that he should plead insanity for the stuff that was going on, because it's just, listening to how he was degrading these women, these beautiful women that he gets, and how he's degrading them and how he feels about them. I mean, me, myself, I'm a very reserved type of person. So I can't see a lot of this stuff. I can't see it. I was raised by a man, and, it goes back to say, Puffy's father was killed when he was, I think about 4 years old, 1972, Marvin Combs, right? So we look at all of these instances of who this man has become. His mother raised him. His mother has, a gangster past. And, Puffy is like the new John Gotti to me. Everything that he was doing, he whipping, he doing everything. And, Puffy ran up on me one day, and we'll talk about that next week, but he ran up on me one day, and now I realize that he got a real temper, and that I just asked him a simple question, and he turned around. He was in my face in a hot second, looking at me like, "What's up, girlfriend?" And I was like, "What's up?" I was on the all G check team. I ain't back down or nothing. But he ran up on me. So I just look at this stuff and I'm thinking, wow, we put Puffy on this pedestal, and he was hurting on the inside. You look at, his first baby, maybe his security guard's baby, that's what they're saying about that. So I look at all.
But let me say this, the media is American nightmare.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's American nightmare because they like, even when dudes like me that caught a case, they tell you, oh, he this, he that, he did this, he did that. You know what I'm saying? Just to get a conviction.
Mm-hmm.
You get where I'm coming from? It's like we sit here and say, yo, I say it, yo, Sean. And I know Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna call him Puff. I'm not gonna call him Diddy. I'm gonna call him Sean. Just Sean, we know what we seen on this video was wrong. But everything, I can't go, because at the end of the day, I know how the government worked because they get a person up there and test and make them testify, and they sit there and lie. So it don't matter. You got to remember, Sean Combs versus United States of America. So that means they gonna do everything they could do to convict another black man in America and take everything away from him.
And that's a pure G
G-check.
and that's real, and I wish that black men wouldn't give the ammo and wouldn't have the ammo behind this in order for them to do this, because we know that this is going to happen. We know what's coming, and then you have some weirdo stuff going on that they can convict you with. So
and even let me G-check this. Even in the Fed system, they got people that they put in jail. They ain't got no crime. They put them in jail and they working. And when I mean working, they detectives, they agents. It goes from females to guys. They sit there and you sit there, meet a dude in the bullpen. You thinking you talking to a real dude that, got caught up on something. The dude's an agent. And you sitting there feeling comfortable telling him what's going on, and the next thing you know, you don't see him no more. And then when you're on trial, who's sitting on the stand?
And that's a G-check. So before we go, I wanted to talk about, let's just say that the YSL trial is over. So everybody's mad at Fannie Willis. If you've seen Young Thug, he had I don't know what he had on his face. It looked like a raccoon around his neck and some sort of animal on his face. So he bugging out, right? So Fannie Willis, they're mad at her because she didn't get any murder convictions out of that long, drawn out, 2-year-long trial. But she said, listen, I got 17 convictions. No, they weren't murder convictions, and we still got things going. And the crime in Atlanta has gone down since they did that. So, she said, I'm G-checking this situation too. Now, Lord Jamal, did you hear about Mr. Lord Jamal? He swore off of Vlad TV. Okay, Lord Jamal and Godfrey, he swore off of Vlad TV, and then he went back on Vlad last week.
Why?
And because Vlad said sorry for what they originally were mad at him at. He said sorry to Farrakhan, after 2-3 years or whatever, and he went back on, and I guess he got a little check. And so everybody is mad at Lord Jamal, and they tearing him down to the very last compound now. And
don't forget to shout out Alamo and Sadat X, that new record.
Yeah. I forget the name of the record, but it's a hot new record with Alamo and Sadat X. I'm gonna play it along with some of our songs, some of our replays. And so Lord Jamal, he's getting a bad rap right now. And then you got Karine Jean-Pierre, who was Biden's she was Biden's press secretary, the little black girl with the little curly hair that was up there talking for Biden. So she is leaving the Democratic Party. She said, I'm doing a full G-check on y'all because I am leaving the Democratic Party. Now, we talked a lot about Corinne on this show because Corinne on and she was like, oh no, Biden is okay. She was the number one chief executive about telling us that Biden was okay. Now she's writing a book and saying that she is leaving the Democratic Party, okay? And she's going to the independent. She says, this is really hard for me. But they must have had a gun to girlfriend's head because girlfriend was over there talking the talk and walking the walk when it came to it. And then lastly, so last week we talked about the mayor forum, the mayor debate that they had. And so now we talked about how Cuomo was the front runner. After the mayor race, Mom Dondi, I got his name right, Zohan Mom Dondi, I got his name right, is the other candidate. that is neck and neck with Cuomo. So if you don't want Andrew Cuomo to win, I'm not a Democrat, so I vote Republican, so I can't do it. You don't want Andrew Cuomo to win, then Mahami Dandi is neck and neck with him. And if you want to see something new in New York, he's a young guy. He was talking good. I heard him, you know.
They all talk good. They all talk good
in there, but I don't know where he's from. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research on him. Let me just go through Coco Gauff. She won a Grand Slam, you know, after after Venus and Serena, next Black woman up. Pam Bondi, she told the rioters, she told everybody, all the rioters, she said, we're coming for you. So Pam Bondi was going strong in the paint. And then you got Lil Wayne. He's questioned about our guy Anton Massey, his prison break. So, you know, the one that hasn't been seen or anything, the feds have questioned Lil Wayne about that. Because Lil Wayne is from New Orleans, he must know him or something of the nature, but they're questioning Lil Wayne about that. But our guy is still off the grid. The two are still out there, you know, they're still out in the streets. Run, you know, so
run Joe.
I still have not heard this song you keep singing, Run Joe.
Chuck Brown.
And then in the New Jersey primary, Citarelli, the Republican Citarelli, and Mikey Sherrill, Democrat Mikey Sherrill, run the Democrat primary. And lastly, before we go, because I think we got a couple seconds to talk about how hip hop jumped out last minute for Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark, who was running for governor. He lost in the primary, so he will not be able to be the governor of New Jersey this time around. But hip hop jumped out. Shout out Hakeem Green, all hip hop, Chuck, and everybody jumped out. And then, you know, they jumped out and they did a big, night fest and, raised money. And they're talking about how they can win. But I feel like it was, too late, too little, too late, when they should have been behind him a long time ago. Yeah. And I think that when you do this, you dilute the power of hip hop, because power of hip hop can be strong behind politics, but don't just jump up to be jumping up so you can get money to do stuff and everything like that. So y'all can say y'all all doing something now, y'all hip hop and politics. Get it right. Okay. Do it right. Do it from the beginning. Be out there. It takes a lot to become something like the governor. And it's not just simply because you got some influence and you got some numbers and you think that it's all of that. So I just wanted to shout that out, because Ras Baraka, I think, would have been a great governor. We're going to look on the next time around. And I hope with him.
Call us, New American. We're going to make it happen.
Exactly. Be with him shorter than the national time. So that is our time for today, ladies and gentlemen. We look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you enjoyed our show. I hope you enjoyed our G-Checks. Tune in every week with us Wednesdays at 1 p.m.
And leave us a message on the bottom.
Leave us a message. Let us know where you're coming from. We see that a lot of people are tuning in, and we appreciate it. And so we will see you next week. Thank you here on Millennium News 24 with your New American
G-Check
and your G-Check.